So it's early on Sunday morning and I don't think it's very warm outside, probably about 7 degrees, but that's also not very cold for us here either. So up in this garden bed here, yesterday we planted some little radishes that we've had growing from seed. So they've made it through overnight and not been eaten, so that's a great start. Then come back over here. And we have beans that we've planted. So angling it down so that you can actually see them would be good, wouldn't it? So the first 4 here are scarlet runner beans, and then further along we have various other sorts of beans, including borlotti beans and other ones. I think there's some white ones and some brown ones, so probably kidney and maybe lima, not sure. So this is a new garden bed that I don't think you've seen before. That one I've put here, I plan to put asparagus in there, and this will mostly be a perennial bed, I think. Could change my mind on that. Then these 2 here are new beds completely. We plan to have, so this is just down below the main walkway through the garden, and this whole section here we plan to make into a whole section of annuals beds. We were going to have a greenhouse because it's so cold here, and then I did some more research, and quite frankly I didn't want to pay the amount of money that I was going to have to pay for something nice and something really good. So we decided in the end to go for a series of low beds which we can put low tunnels over, and the low tunnels can have veggie net at certain times of the year. They can also have frost cloth if we want that, and they can also have horticultural plastic, or several layers of those things to keep the frost off and keep them warm enough in the very cold temperatures that we get. We don't have snow here, so we don't have the insulating qualities of snow at times. We just get the frost. I mean, we do get snow, but it's not thick enough to actually do those things. We just generally lands and then melts straight away. So as we come further up here, I'm just going to go over and have a look at our white crystal grape, which we can see signs of things happening on, but still not a great deal. So if we look down here, this here is a little thing that's soft and keeps getting bigger, so we think that's a sign of life. There's a few others of them as well, like one here, and then there's also one here as well. So we think that that means that this is still alive, which is great because we'd really like our grapevine back again. Okay, so turning around and coming over here, this is our cider grape bed, and we can see that this one particularly is starting, that went into focus for a very short while and then came out again. That's got some new growth there, so that's really exciting. And then further around there is new growth, not so much on that one there, but actually no, there is starting to be some, but there's definitely some new growth on this one here that you can see, so that's really good. Then coming up here, we're still getting hit by frosts quite regularly, so these are struggling a bit, but it's nice to see that things are starting to happen to some of them. For each of the different types of raspberries, we got 5 canes. It remains to be seen whether all of them actually sprout and survive, or whether just some of them do. But I suppose that's the advantage of having 5 canes, that some of them most likely will survive. Then we've got other various berries over here, which are either doing things or not doing things. The young berry in the middle, which is just down here. I'm not sure that it's survived. It did have some growth at one stage, but got hit by frost. And then over the back there's a silverberry, which is doing precisely nothing. So I don't think it's survived either. So, but we got 2 silverberries, so if only one survives, well, at least we've got one. So I'm okay with that. Coming up here, something new that you won't necessarily have seen before is that we've started to put the battens onto our hoop houses, and that's in preparation for putting the netting over the top. This is a very high wind area, so we want to make them quite solid, and well, they will still move, but they'll move in a way that's a bit more, what's the word? A bit more rigid. So this is our persimmon tree, and it's getting extremely close to coming out in leaf. Some of those buds there have got definite green and definite leafiness to them. So we're really excited to just keep watching that every day, and it changes and changes, and it's good. So here is our blueberries. The front row here has our northern high bush blueberries in it, and the lower row has the southern high bush and rabbit eyes. They're not doing so well because this is probably not the right climate for them, but our northern high bushes are doing exceptionally well. So we've got Blue Rose on the end, then we've got Denise, she's looking great, and Brigitte, and then this one is Northland. Northland went in yesterday because I happened upon a Northland blueberry plant at our local hardware store. I had been wanting a Northland, but hadn't been able to get my hands on one yet, and I really didn't think that I would get one this season because it's so late in the season for people to be planting blueberries. And there they were, so it's in now, and hopefully we'll be very happy. And then this one here is Annie. So they've each got some flowers, so I think we should hopefully get a crop out of that this year. Then we've got 2 rows of potatoes here, which we've been covering up with, what is it? It's sugarcane mulch, which is very blowy stuff these days. It's very chopped up and not great. And we've also got frost cloth that we put over them on really cold nights. But they're pushing their way through, so they're quite happy. Then coming up here, we've got a row of Chinese radishes, daikon radishes along the back here, and they're starting to come up with their second leaves, so that's great. And then on the other side of the trellis we've got snow peas, which are starting to grow up. I am trying to train them to grow up the strings. It's not entirely successful, but we're getting there. Some of them I think will just remain ground dwelling plants. Okay, that's fine. Then in front of them we've got our beetroots, and they are starting to get a little bit bigger. And then we've got our fabulous pak choys, bok choys, whichever ones they are. Some of them are starting to flower. They're starting to bolt, and apparently if they get very cold in spring they can do that. Well, they're only ever going to get very cold in spring here. And tucked in behind them, which didn't used to be tucked in behind them, is the celery. It's putting on growth, so that's looking good. We're going to have to eat some of that pak choy, bok choy, whatever it is, very soon. Then here we have, this is the flamenco column apple, and it's definitely got some new growth. Come on, come into focus. There we are, some new growth there, so that's wonderful. Looking forward to that coming out into flower and leaf. Yesterday we planted a whole heap of ground covers and understory plants in these gardens here. So this is our almond tree, which is nicely in leaf. We have, that one, I don't really remember, nectarine of some sort, and it's got some flowers on it, which is lovely. And for a lot of our ground covers we've planted strawberries which have runners. So not alpine strawberries because they don't get runners, but these ones hopefully will take over and provide lots of fruit for us and probably the birds as well. And here I've put in a little comfrey as a dynamic accumulator. This is sundown nectarine, which is taking its time to do anything, but it does have some new growth. There's a little calendula here. We planted them, and then I realised, I wonder if they go okay with frost. Anyway, we'll see about that. Then the next row here, we've got our very leafy Santa Rosa plum. So that's looking like it's doing good things. This one here is a ground cover rosemary. So the plants that we're planting in our understory, that we wanted them to have a few different features. We need them to cover the ground. So we've got lots of ground covers in. And look, we're going to plant a whole lot more, but this is what we started off with. We want them to be, some of them to be smelly plants so that they confuse the pests. This one here is our Dajan Pru. So you can see, excuse me, that it's starting to get leaves, which is great. Sorry, back to the understory. We want dynamic accumulators to bring nutrients up from below. We haven't got any nitrogen fixing plants in here yet, but they're going to come. I'm still working on some of them. So basically we want to confuse the smells, we want to attract pollinators, we want to cover the ground, we want to bring nutrients up, and we want to help provide nitrogen. So that's all of the things that we're looking for, and we can't do that with all the one plant, so we've got a whole range of different things. This is our goldmine nectarine, so it's looking rather good. Down there is a myoporum, which is also known as creeping boobiala, and that is an Australian native ground cover. So I wanted to put some of them in because they flower and the birds quite like them. This is our Moore Park apricot. Some tansy here. This one here is our black boy peach, and it's got some nice new growth on it. Just starting out a bit, but it's getting there. This is lad's love, which I think is a hilarious name for a plant. This one here is our Shanghai peach, which did not go dormant over winter, so it's looking straggly because it's come up here out of its sheltered place and it's probably had a little bit of a shock, but it will settle in okay. This is our Royal Rainier plum. No, not plum, it's a cherry, and it's had some lovely blossoms on it. We'll have to see whether we get any cherries out of that. I do hope so. We've got, this one is a red ruby strawberry, and it actually has beautiful red flowers, not on that plant, but there is one that does. That one is I think that's a rosemary. Let me see. Yep, Tuscan blue rosemary. So that's going to be an upright rosemary, but that will be for its smell, and we'll also be able to eat off that. This is our morello cherry. It's starting to get some new growth. It's a bit behind the others. That's okay. Some more comfrey down here. Just there. This is our Lapins cherry. It's got lovely new growth. I think we're going to get some flowers on that soon. Down here we have a calendula, and on the other side there is a strawberry plant. We've kept all the strawberries in each row the one type so that we can identify them later on. So we haven't mixed them all in together. So this row's got all ruby red. The previous strawberries that I showed you were Hockaway's strawberries, I think. This is our Stella cherry, and you can see that there's some blossoms coming there too, which is exciting. This is an English lavender. English lavender is apparently the only type of lavender that will survive frost, so that's the sort we have to have. This is our May Grand nectarine, and she's looking very pretty with her beautiful flowers. And this is one of the strawberries, and it's a beautiful red flower that it's got on it. So, and it's also got some strawberries, as you can see, that are forming, so that's great. Over the back, another calendula, and this is our Wixom plum with its one outburst of leaves. Hopefully more will come. It really got hit by the frost about the time it flowered, so we know we won't get any fruit out of that this year. This is another myoporum. This is a pink myoporum, which I put right next to the pink lady apple, so we'll get lots of pink together. Well, I don't know that the pink lady apple will flower in pink, but you know, just associating the pinks. There is a little bit of new growth on there, so it's getting there. Trying to focus on it. There we are. So you can see there's a little bit of new growth there, which is great. Down the back we have a comfrey plant, another calendula here. This is our red love apple, which is a red flesh apple, and it's got lots of new growth on it. Still really tightly budded, but you can see that it's about to burst forth. This is a walking onion, so the point of it is to confuse with its scents. That is scents. So walking onions, they have onions that sort of form up on top, and you can break them off and plant them. So that's one that will be able to spread throughout the garden quite successfully. This is our Granny Smith apple, and you can possibly see there that there's quite a bit of new growth. Come on, focus. Oh, well, there is quite a bit of new growth on that. So it's about to burst forth into leaf. Another little calendula there. Another ground cover rosemary. This is our Williams pear, and there's new buds on the... There really are. I'll assure you that there are on that. And this is our polka column apple, and it's got some new growth as well, which, if it would focus, you could see. Yeah, it's short periods of time that it's in focus. And up here we have some calendula. Over the back there's comfrey. This is, now we had to keep them out of the way of where the wires will be for the pears and the apples. So all of these don't have things really along the top, because that's where the wires will be. That one is our Doyen de Comis pear, and it's got lovely leaves. It's the first one of our pomme fruit that actually has some leaves. This is another walking onion. Probably planted a bit too much on top, but anyway. Another myoporum is a much bigger one. And then we have our red Danjou pear, and there's new growth on that as well. Down there we have a little white English lavender. So that's the main things on this side. So we've planted out a whole heap there. We're going to put a whole heap more in yet. But, you know, these things take time. We had a nice big trip to the nurseries the other day. We went to about 4 nurseries and got lots of lovely things. This is our what is it? That's our fig tree, our Genoa fig. And we can see that there is actually some new growth happening there, which is fabulous, because for a long time it's been trying and keeps being hit by frost, but things are starting to warm up, and we can start to see that things are happening there. This is our red currant, and it looks great. This is the white currant. It also looks great. In here we have our mulberry. There is still no signs of actual growth there that we can see. We're still hopeful though, and it may do something yet. I'm sorry if you're hearing a lot of wind. It's quite windy this morning. This is our black currant here, and you may be able to see that there is some new growth on that, so that's great. It's a little bit more protected down there, probably doesn't get as much warmth, so it's taking its time. This is another one that's taking its time. This is our, what is it? It's our angel red pomegranate. Now we had a look at the pomegranates at the nursery in Armadale the other day. Armadale's warmer than here, and some of theirs still look sticky like this, full of sticks. So they were probably a little bit further along, so we're still hopeful that this will come good again, but it doesn't look it at the moment. It looks pretty dreadful. And now I'm bringing you down here to our new pride and joy. This went in yesterday. Hope you can see it. Yeah. So this is a serviceberry, a Canadian serviceberry, which is... Now, I have no real idea how to say this, but I believe it might be Amelanchier canadensis. And it's a tree that comes from obviously North America, it can withstand really cold temperatures. I think I read down to -40. We don't get anything like that here, so that'll be great. It has these beautiful white flowers which develop into purple berries that are actually quite a bit like blueberries in summer, and it has leaves that in autumn they turn beautiful colours. So this is going to be a very special tree for us because it's the sort of thing that's very unusual. A lot of people, well, we don't know anyone else that's got one. So we're really looking forward to seeing what that does for us. We were put onto the service berry by a friend who recommended a Saskatoon berry. Now, a Saskatoon berry is actually the alnifolia rather than the canadensis, and some places say it's got better tasting fruit, so we'd like one of them as well, but we started off with canadensis because that's what we could get, and we'll try and get an alnifolia in the future. This is one of our hazelnuts, so it's looking lovely. Excuse me again. This is well, I can't remember which hazelnut it is. It's a bit behind the others, but it does have buds and it will come out soon. This row we've got strawberries in. These are Delight strawberries. So we're also going to plant out all of these rows with understory stuff as well. But at the moment, because we haven't got the trees in, we didn't feel that it was a good thing to put too much in down below. But this row is complete with its trees, so that's why we could plant into it. This is a Lewis hazelnut, and it's got some new growth down the bottom there. Another one of our hazelnuts. So they're all coming out into leaf except that one, which is nearly there. So they're looking great, and there's more strawberries down the back there. So down here we've got, this one here is a silverberry. Don't know if you can see that very well, but that's a great tree, or bush really, that is an evergreen. It's a nitrogen fixing plant. It's a very dense plant. It has flowers and then berries, so it will attract pollinators to the garden and we'll be able to eat their berries if they don't all. This is our flame smoke bush, and it's getting closer to coming out into leaf. It just changes a little bit all the time. So they are the main thing that's happened, things that have happened. Oh, I also did get swooped by a magpie here the other day, a few times. Actually, I think that's probably it over there on the garage next door. So we have to be a little bit wary at this time of year. It's feeling like we're encroaching on its space. So hopefully in the next little while these will start to look a bit more finished with their netting over the top of them, and get all that complete, hopefully. We're still thinking through design aspects of how these are going to work, like will they have a door on the end, what are we going to put as a sort of a kickboard along the bottoms so that when we whip a snipper up against it, it doesn't cut through the netting. So we've been through lots of ideas of what we're going to do there. So yep, that's where we're at this week.